Hello there, welcome to Sling Paint Gaming. I'm Patrick. Today we are going to go over the latest article from Gale Force 9. We're going to be talking about tanks, World of Tanks, the miniatures game, Wave 3. We're getting 4 tanks. We always get 4 tanks, but these are some very, very interesting tanks today. We're going to start it right off. We're getting the British Sherman VC Firefly. Uh, you might notice a little difference. It packs quite a punch. This particular Sherman has the 76.2 millimeter anti-tank gun. This gives the Sherman a 6 firepower, and also 5 health. At a whopping, it looks like 54 points. So it's a little bit beefier than its American cohort. So this is what's interesting. So the Sherman was sent over to the British. They looked at it and said, it's missing some punch. So it took them years, but they eventually were able to get this cannon equipped to this tank, and this is what they used to go up against, the Tigers, the Panzers, and all the other tanks that they just didn't want to have to deal with, and so they slapped that bad boy on there. So that's what it comes with stock. It still has the 2 mobility, the 6 initiative, the 1 survivability, and then the 4 crew. So at 54 points, it's 3 more points than the SU-100. So me and Robert were going back and forth on this to see where this tank is going to fit into your platoon here, because basically it's got 1 more health than your American Sherman. You can take the 75 millimeter gun, gives -2 to your attack and also -14 points, which is quite incredible of a point drop, because me and him averaged it out. We're thinking that 1 attack, added or subtracted is 7 points, so which is why this one's 14. We went over some other tank cards as well just to verify that's basically what one attack power counts to, is about 7 points. So we did the math. This, when you drop down to 40 points, the American Sherman is 37 points. Is that extra hull worth 3 points? I mean, we couldn't see any other way, but yes, 100% that extra hull is worth those 3 points. So you could take 5 of these in a 200-point match with unfortunately nothing on them. But it's something to consider. They might be just that little more extra beef that you need in order to, get a little more survivability. You can run 5 of them across the board. They're pretty good at doing what they do. It's still a medium tank. You get that extra reroll anytime that you move. If you just sit still, you get the whole lot. But not a bad tank for the British. Let's go over some of the upgrades it comes with. It comes with the heavy shell. So if you decide not to downgrade its cannon, you're going to be able to get another die on top of your attack die, because you're 5 or greater at that point at close range, and that one, I believe, is for only 2 points, so not bad, especially if you jack up its movement initiative and you make sure that you get into that close range and then you attack with 7 dice. Not a bad shake, especially for a tank that, of course, has a 360 turret. You've got the coated optics, which is 3 points. It gives you +1 base initiative, so that would make this thing 7 all around. Again, not bad. Higher initiative is always good. It's fairly cheap, 3 points for both moving and shooting. You've got concealment, which that's a 6-point upgrade. It gives you +wall and cover. It'd be good if it's, going around the skirts or going in between buildings, stuff like that. So when you're in cover, not only do you get a cover bonus, you get another cover bonus on top of it, or just stacks into the bonuses. Newly added, and sorry if I'm butchering this, it's Aaron Mayrick. It looks as though he's 9 points. The 2 upgrades that he comes with is signal boosting. This one, I believe, is new. It's in this platoon tanks in this platoon that have a lower initiative value than this tank get +1 initiative during the shooting phase. He also comes with relaying, which is tanks gain a base initiative of this tank. So they actually do work together, because it's during the shooting phase and then it's base initiative. So you can have those 3, 4, even 5 initiative tanks gain a boost during certain types or certain turns of the match, which is really cheeky. I really do like that because like during the shooting phase only, and then the relaying. I have the card here, um, but they do stack together. I just find that super interesting that it's basically going to make those tanks your initiative and then still add the +1 during the shooting phase. I think that's so cheeky. So I really do like Aaron for 9 points. I think he's so going to be worth it. He, of course, is British, so you're going to have to fit him with your British tanks, but I don't think that's going to be a downside at all, especially since we're now seeing tanks that are going to be on multiple factions. So even if you say, hey, I want this on my Sherman, I want it on, something else, don't worry. Just wait. Eventually, more tanks will come out, and they'll be faction specific, and so on and so forth. But with this tank as is, um, I mean, if you want that extra health and you want that firepower, and you don't want an assault gun, you you really like to move and shoot, this would be the tank for you. Because the SU-100 is the only other tank that has 6 attack power currently. There are others that you can jack up, but this is just strictly base. Uh, this thing can pack such a punch, and because it has 5 health, it just makes that a little bit more survivable. You can also equip other things to it that make it to where it can move right before the game starts. You can also throw on Sixth Sense to make it move maybe a little bit more, and this will take care of those other medium tanks that you really are battling against. The other thing is the way that they have this set up. I don't know if this is going to replace the SU-100 as a just sit and shoot type tank. I mean, it does come with concealment. It only has 1 survivability, but it's 3 more points base than your SU-100. But it's a medium tank, so it gets that reroll. It can be flanked, but it doesn't have the drawback of the SU-100 to where if all of a sudden you're in its side, it's going to get -2 to its defense instead of the 1. So, I mean, this also could be another option for you to just sit in cover and shoot and just blow things up. And if you have to move, because you do have that high initiative, you can, scour the board, take a look, and then move your tank to another position. You still get 1 reroll, you still get 6 attack dice. So it's definitely a different option or style of play that you might be used to. And it just might be something to look into because if you're playing a lot of those scenarios to where you're either capturing or sitting, it really is helpful to be able to move and still shoot. And because this thing, again, I'm going to emphasize 6 attack power is absolutely incredible for a tank like this. So, I mean, I know Robert's going to try this tank out. I'm going to try this tank out. We're going to try it with and without the upgrade because I'm still impressed by the 75mm gun that allows it 4 attack dice and drops it down to 40 points just for another extra hull. I think that's absolutely top notch. So, next up, we have Wolverines, the M10. This thing, I'm shocked in how this was built, and so was Robert, because it's an open top tank. That's how they designed it. This thing originally was for, taking on other medium tanks because you can upgrade it to the M1A2 gun to make it 5 attack power and increase its initiative. But yeah, the troops, all the people that would go up against this thing, a simple grenade, some simple flyover from an airplane would easily take out the turret. So it wasn't very armored. So I'm very shocked that this thing doesn't have any sort of extra bonus if you get into its flanks to minus its defense. It does have only 1 survivability because the encasing was pretty armored, but that top part was completely open. You can take the M10, what is it? The M10 T72 M1, the mobile turret. That doesn't. You can see that they close the top, but it doesn't add anything to the survivability. Just gives you +2 during the shooting phase, which that's not bad for what was it? I think 3 points. So it makes it a little bit better during the shooting phase. Hopefully, you'll get a shot off before somebody shoots at you. And also, this is not a medium tank. This is a tank destroyer. So it gets that nice bonus for being in cover. I just don't know, again, if you want to sit this in cover. There are definitely a little bit more options. The other thing is this thing is 37 points base, and the turret gives, or the what is it? The gun, the M1A2 gun is another 7 points, like I said, but it's actually better costed because it gives you +1 base initiative and +1 attack power. So that's 7 points that you normally have to spend for an attack. Yeah, you get an added initiative to it as well. So it's a nice mix, mobility of 2, base initiative 6. I mean, we're going to have to play test this one. I think these tanks, these specifically, you're going to try to find a home for it, but the point is it's the same thing as a Sherman, basically. I know it's a tank destroyer. It's good to sit and cover, but I think I'd rather take just a Sherman instead at 37 points because of the re-rolling of that 1 attack die. I understand that this one's going to sit and cover and shoot and re-roll its attack dice, but because of its 1 survivability, 4 health, this is going to be one of those tanks to where it's going to sit and cover. It might pop some shots and blow some things up for you. It's probably going to blow up in the process. But, again, it's only 37 points base. So you're not losing that much unless you've loaded up with upgrades. So let's take a look at the rest of the upgrades. You get a nice case of cola, my favorite, because I love that cola red. You've got signal boosting, which we already saw on the British tank, which it basically gives +1 to other tanks during the shooting phase that are lower initiative than you. And then we've got Connor Rycroft. He comes with designated target, which we already know, and also Deadeye. So designated target, if I'm not mistaken, is while a tank doesn't move, or if it's already shot or moved, then it doesn't gain a cover bonus. And then also Deadeye, which allows you to, I believe, change a, what is it? Yeah, you get to choose 2 critical cards if you score a critical hit, and you choose 1 to apply. That one is a whopping, it looks like 11 points. I mean, I don't have the points exactly in front of me, but 11 points seems like a lot for just the designated target and the Deadeye. You might find it better just to mix and match those instead of just taking this guy all to himself, because that's it. He doesn't come with increasing your initiative, doesn't come with anything like that. It just adds these 2 cards, which you could technically just add those cards yourself instead of Connor, but to each their own. This is another American tank. I'm not sold on it. I'm not going to lie. I'd rather see a Sherman than this thing, but we're going to try it out on the board. We'll let you know how it goes, especially since, it is a tank destroyer. It's another added one instead of the Stug and the SU-100. So if you don't want to spend exuberant amount of points and you still want to keep that 4 attack power, and, I know with the Stug everyone keeps saying because it has the has to hit with crits only, this might be another option for you. This could be it. For me, it's not my flavor. I'm going to choose probably the Stug because I love that loadout. I love the 5 attack dice and then changing 2 hits to crits. It's just my flavor. All right. Next up. Again, me and Robert talk about these tanks all day. I love this tank. Not for any specific reason other than that it is very historically accurate. It's just like the Valentine. It's got a special place in my heart. This thing is the first heavy tank that we're getting, and I'm not glad that we're getting it, but I do find it funny that we are getting this one to start with as our first heavy tank. The heavy tank, if you guys don't know, it lets you reroll a defense die instead of rerolling the attack die like the medium tank. It also it doesn't say that it has any other, I'll say side effects or conditions. So there's no heavy armament like the Valentine, or it doesn't have any other other perks. It is 43 points. It's 5 health. It's initiative 4, which means it's incredibly, slow on the movement for shooting and also getting to where it needs to go. And it's a mobility 2, survivability of 2, which is great. However, I think there are a lot better tanks out there that are going to be able to get the job done because this thing is 4 attack power. It doesn't get that medium die reroll, and from these upgrades, it doesn't look like it's going to punch. So let me tell you why I love this tank. Because of the fact that it's so historically accurate. It was one of its first kind of the heavy tank that came out. It was supposed to compete against, the German tanks. It didn't. It really didn't. It was the SC-100, and then also the other. I'm trying to think of the other tank, but the T-34. Those were the main tanks that they were using to combat all other tanks, especially the heavies and the mediums. But this was their first go at it. It wasn't a success. They did, try to add to it later down the line. It did have some variations that were a little better, but this first issue is an amazing, just historically comical tank that I can't wait to try. So let's go over the upgrades. You get the engine, which is the V218, which is 3 points. You get +2 during the movement. Pretty good for 3 points. You've got extra combat rations. I love it when they add cards like this to every pack because these are just cards that you will sometimes auto-include on all of your tanks, especially for using multiple of one faction. It's only 1 point. It lets you repair a radio or a bailed out, which is great because there's nothing worse than getting it bailed out at the wrong time, especially on a lower initiative tank like this. That's probably going to happen, especially now that you have 5 health. You're going to get more crits than you normally would because it has more health. Smooth Ride. This is an amazing card. I'm glad that they are, again, this is one of those other cards that you just want to have multiple of in case you're running a bunch of smaller tanks that are really fast. So I like including those as well. Smooth Ride. When shooting, you basically count your movement as one less. That way they don't get to add to their dice pool for defense. Great card. I believe that's 8 points. We've got Call for Vengeance. Now, this is an interesting card, strictly because you need to equip it to this. You need to equip it to a tank, of course, but it's the tank that you equip it to that needs to die in order for it to work. So, I don't know if I'd put it on a larger tank because then that might take longer for it to die. It might trigger later in the battle, which might be good for you actually, but I don't know. I'd rather put Call for Vengeance on a smaller tank, something I know that might pop real quick. That way, it'll boost the rest of my squad. And there's no line of sight, there's no range on this thing. It's when this tank is destroyed, all other tanks gain +1 initiative till the end of the turn. That's pretty good. It's a nice little way to send out a message to your other brother and say, hey, I just got destroyed. Could you avenge me, please? So you call for it. Then we have Andre Harry Rulin. That one I couldn't read for the points. I think it's either 8 to 9. It's got Snapshot, which just means you can move that turret just a little bit faster. It gives you +2 during the shooting phase. And then Concealment, which is +1 while in cover. So if you're in cover, instead of the +1 bonus, you get +2. Again, this is the first heavy tank that was basically introduced by the Ruskies, or Russians. It's going to probably play like it did in actual War II scenarios. So if you have any ideas or ways that you're going to build this to make this your tank, again, I'm going to play test it anyways just to see what I can do. I did play test the Tiger tank because it does come in the instructions. I have a Tiger tank, so I put it on the board with like none of the upgrades because we haven't had a Tiger tank yet. So we're going to see what this heavy tank can do. The Tiger tank oh man, it was so good because of its survivability. It's 8 health. The 5 attack power was good, but again, it's those getting your modifications a little bit better because medium or heavy tanks can't re-roll their dice unless they're standing still. We'll see if upgrade cards help out later with that. But as of right now, this is just one of those tanks that I'm going to own. I don't necessarily see myself playing. I could be wrong. We're going to try to increase our players pool over at Recon Specialist TV because I know a group of us just bought it and love playing it. We do it in TTS. We do it on actual tabletop. We just like play testing all this. We like play testing the scenarios. So I'm very anxious to see what this thing can do. It might be able to just march up the side, stay in cover, move a little bit, more average speed. And then once it just sits into a position, it can hunker down because of its survivability, its cover saves, its re-rolling defense die. It can just be like that annoying tank off to the side that just keeps plugging away, re-rolling its dice because it didn't move, and so on and so forth. So there's the KV-1S. Let me know what you think about this heavy tank. It is our first heavy tank. We already have our first light tank, but that's the Valentine. I don't consider that a light tank because it really is, but it isn't. And because it's so slow, it can't really use its ability well. At least that was my perspective. Because every time I put that thing on the board, no matter how I maneuvered it, Robert would just snipe it. Even Joseph would just snipe it right off the table, and it was gone. So it wasn't actually a very successful light tank. I don't know how successful this will be as our first heavy tank, but again, let me know below. I'm actually anxious to see what you guys think about it. All right, last but certainly not least, because in the video game World of Tanks, this was my other go-to tank besides the Valentine. This was my get behind enemy lines, be a complete pain in the butt, and do some damage to other light tanks because this thing was fast. It had a decent weapon. As you can see, this one has the 5 centimeter KWK. It adds 1 attack power, making it a 4 attack power, which is pretty good. And this is a medium tank. This is not a light tank. This thing flat open could do 60 kilometers or 30 miles per hour for our American friends. It was just an amazing tank because this is the Panzer III J. 0 survivability. That's not going to be a problem because you're going to make up for that with your movement because mobility of 3 and initiative of 8. So, I mean, this, I think, is our first glance at an actual light tank that it doesn't give you that +1 attack when it's range or close range to another enemy tank, and then your other tanks can gain that bonus. This one it's a medium tank. It's got that nice reroll. It's going to be able to bump it up for 4 points because its base is 30. At least that's what I see on this card is 30 points. I mean, you could spam a lot of these, bump up their attack value to, the 4. It's got 4 health because it's a medium tank, 8 initiative. That's crazy to start with. So it's light, it's fast, and it can be a little bit powerful. So I'm very interested to see what this is going to do for my, my tank squad. I'm definitely going to take this over the Valentine, which I love taking, but sorry, move over. I got to put this guy in here. He's going to be able to do some stuff. He's going to be able to keep up with the T-34s, and he's definitely going to be able to flank those annoying SU-100s, the Stugs. Like, you can just zip this guy down the board edge and just have tons of fun with it while actually doing damage. All right. Now that I've talked this thing up so much, let's go over the other upgrades. You can do the 3.7 centimeter cannon, which means it immediately gets bumped up to base initiative. Not shooting, not moving, but base. So this thing's going to be 10, and I think that was 2 to 3 points. So you're already going to be way ahead of, the rest of the tanks that are in this game when it comes to initiative. It's going to be pretty amazing. I might keep this thing at a 3 attack power, run 2 of them, initiative 10, but then bump them up with some other upgrades just to make sure that nothing keeps up with it, and just run them down and start flanking stuff and shooting from the back, because they're just so cheap. They're just so cheap, and it's going to be amazing. All right, Deadeye. We already saw this one earlier. It's for 5 points. You draw 2 critical cards. You apply 1. The shooting player gets to choose which critical card you apply. I don't like it on this tank. Most of the time, you're not going to be pushing that many crits through with your 3 attack dice. You're more likely there just to poke and prod. It would be great if you got 1 crit through, and then you get to choose which one. I want to run these things thin as possible, so I don't think that 5-point bump is going to do it for me. But again, Deadeye, great card. I want to add it to the stock that I have because I like stacking multiple cards, especially ones that let me choose crits, because often. How often do you just draw a crit and it does 0 damage? It stuns the crew. You're like, okay, -2 initiative. Who cares? This thing's already initiative 3. It's literally a wasted crit. And then you just keep drawing and drawing and drawing. So I understand why they threw this in here. I'm glad they did. I'm not going to put it on mine. Preventative maintenance. Now, if you guys have seen us before, you know that we screw up things constantly. I mean, to steal from another, group that we know and love, we get things wrong so that you can berate us in the comments. So this one, when defending, this tank may modify a hit to a crit. So my brain was saying, oh, I get to modify my opponent's dice. No, it's modify my dice, which I still don't think this card is worth 6 points. It might be worth it on something like this just because it can be fragile with the 0 survivability. But if I get to change one of my hits to a crit, that means I can block one of your crits. And if somebody has a stug on the table that relies on crits, it's great if they roll all 6 dice, they get maybe 2 crits. I roll my whatever defense because chances are that stug didn't move, which means I'm only defending with 3 dice. If all of a sudden I can roll 1 crit, change another hit to a crit, oh, good. I just blocked that shot, even though he just had 4 hits and 2 crits. I get to block his 2 crits first. He does no damage, which, that's a tank that's just going to survive another day, especially if that tank has Deadeye. And then finally, Albrecht Dahl, 9 points. Now, this guy is a really good card. It's +1 while in cover, and then the recon upgrade, which gives you +1 during the movement, and also you get to move twice during the deployment phase. That's an excellent card to have on this little guy. It is expensive. It's 9 points, but if all of a sudden I can move 5 times on the first turn, and then because I took the 3.7 on top of this, all of a sudden my movement's an 11 without even batting an eye. And I can easily get into cover. All of a sudden, because I'm in cover and I move 3 times, my defense goes up to a 5. Regardless if you moved or not, I'm rolling 5 dice versus you. That's a really good strategy, especially if you're playing those scenarios to where you're trying to capture something or move to a different spot, and then just lay down some cover fire for your other tanks. So this is what's amazing about these packs. We've got the Panzer that comes with 2 different barrels. We already have a Panzer that's out, which still came with the Germans. I understand that this one probably has a misprint, maybe, because it does have an American flag in the top left, if you didn't notice. So that's probably a misprint. If it's not, that's going to be interesting, because then I don't know how that's going to work with the ones that have the Nazi flag in the top right and then the American. I'll have to reread the rules and see, can I equip that to this tank? But we'll just say that it's an error for now. If it's not, who cares? Play on. And the other thing is, because I was going to say, this comes with 2 different barrels. We also have the Sherman now. So we've got technically 3 different Shermans. We've got this Sherman. We've got the Firefly with its 76 millimeter. Then you can do the 75. We've got the same thing, Wolverine, that comes with 2 different barrels and a different turret on top of it. And then finally, we have our first heavy tank. So this is an excellent wave, in my honest opinion. I'm super excited to order them and get them here and playtest them, especially my little Panzer, and get that on the board and just run it up and do some damage with it. I'll playtest the KV-1S. I'm excited for it, especially if you take the KV-1S. Maybe, like, I keep going back to the Valentine. I would really like to run it with the Valentine, block a little bit, but every time I try to use it, it blows up, even though I use the Sixth Sense, the Recon. It's just too slow of a tank. I would need it for city fighting. If there was lots of points to cover, the Valentine's great. In wide open fields, just don't bother. Don't run. It's just going to blow up. I love that tank, but I hate it. And again, we get a lot of upgrades that we already have, which is good for, a collector like me. I hail from X-Wing. I hail from, Star Wars Destiny. I hail from, what the heck else do I play? What is it? Where is it? aliens. So I need to buy everything in order to be, whole. I'm a completionist. So I'm going to buy all these tanks. Every time I get a coated optics, a heavy shell, a concealment, all these cards that I already have a copy of, I want multiple of them. I want to be able to fit them on all of my tanks if need be at a moment's notice. And then best of all, if I play with someone who has never played tanks or doesn't have a complete set like me, I have no problem with lending them stuff, letting them borrow it, and playing on through, as long as they give it back. Unless I have like 7 copies of something, then I'll give it over to them. Or I'll share a couple there. But yeah, there it is. Wave 3. You can pre-order it now. And then it's going to be, I believe, shipping around March 26th or something to that effect. Because, COVID delays, things are running smoothly for now. Things are doing well, but you never know. They're pretty good at keeping up to date with us on shipping delays and stuff like that. And it also varies. It's so different per country. Because I've ordered stuff and it got to me, 4 weeks later, and then I know people across the pond have ordered stuff. They're getting a little bit faster and vice versa. Or, it's just different people are popping up around the globe and getting it at random times. It's just the way it is currently in the shipping business. But, I don't mind. I can wait, especially since, I can play with the people that I know virtually, and as well as actually putting the tanks on the table, because I love putting tanks on the table. Also trying to build as much terrain up as I can, because actually you can see in the photo in the background, that's actually the terrain that I was using. I went to go order more. The guy was out. Everyone's buying up terrain now. So I'm starting to 3D print my own. Also, Gale Force 9 sells some, so I'm going to pick up some from them, because I like the realism on the mats. I do have the Gale Force 9 mat out as well. We thoroughly enjoyed that one because it comes preloaded with one side of a lot of buildings, so I was able to duplicate that with actual buildings on top, and the other side is completely blank. I did see some pictures on Facebook. If you'd like, go join the World of Tanks Facebook page for Gale Force 9, and then also there's the Gale Force 9 and Tank Skirmish Facebook page. People are posting a lot of pictures of their setups, what they're using for terrain, what they're running for scenarios, so a lot of people are getting into this game. I can't lie. It's one of those games that Robert and I just love taking out and playing and just being like, hey, you know what? Let's play tanks today. But yeah, there you have it. Wave 3. Go pre-order now. Go ahead and leave a comment below on what you're excited about in the pack, or what upgrades that you're going to include on the tanks that you're planning on buying from this wave. Also say hi. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what we're getting wrong. Because if you let us know that we're doing something wrong, guess what? Anyone who views it is going to know what we're doing wrong as well. And also what we're doing right. That also helps. So go ahead in the description below in YouTube. Hi, YouTubers. You can click on any of our links below. There's the Twitch links, so where when we go live like we are right now, you can watch us, leave a comment in the chat room, and I can see it. You can also join our Patreon, to where we always send lots of goodies to our Patreons who support the channel. You can head over to our Facebook page, Recon Specialist TV, to where I post as much stuff as I can. I'm on a multitude of games, especially, if a wave comes out, I'll definitely let you guys know in our Facebook page. Also on our Instagram, which you can go over to. It's Recon Specialist _TV. And then also my Twitter account as well. You can email us. We have reconspecialisttv@gmail.com and also recontokens@gmail.com. Recon Tokens, you can go over to our website, recontokens.com. We're currently providing tokens, tournament kits, just tons of different stuff that you can possibly think of for all of your board gaming needs. So head on over there if you want some custom tokens, league tokens, a tournament kit. If you want your emblem on one of our tokens, we can incorporate that and, create whatever you need for your gaming requirements. And then, finally, you can go over to our podcast, which is Recon Specialist TV, over on Podbean, iTunes, and also Google Play. Mostly we talk about X-Wing over there, but hey, you never know. Maybe we'll do a tanks episode as well. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please click like, subscribe, and share below, and have a good one.